Amy Lou Adams is an American actress. Known for both her comedic and dramatic performances, she has placed 3 times in annual rankings of the highest-paid actresses in the world. Her accolades include 2 Golden Globes, and nominations for 6 Academy Awards and 7 British Academy Film Awards.
Born in Vicenza, Italy, and raised in Castle Rock, Colorado, Adams is the 4th of 7 siblings. She trained to be a ballerina, but at age 18, she found musical theater a better fit, and from 1994 to 1998, she worked in dinner theater. She made her feature film debut with a supporting part in the 1999 satire Drop Dead Gorgeous. After moving to Los Angeles, she made guest appearances in television and took on mean girl parts in small-scale features. Her first major role came in Steven Spielberg's 2002 biopic Catch Me If You Can, opposite Leonardo DiCaprio, but she was unemployed for a year afterward. Her breakthrough came in the part of a loquacious pregnant woman in the 2005 independent film Junebug.
The 2007 musical Enchanted, in which Adams played a cheerful princess, was her first major success as a leading lady. She followed it by playing naive, optimistic women in a series of films such as the 2008 drama Doubt. She subsequently played stronger parts to positive reviews in the sports film The Fighter and the psychological drama The Master. In 2013, she began portraying Lois Lane in superhero films set in the DC Extended Universe. She won 2 consecutive Golden Globe Awards for Best Actress for playing a seductive con artist in the crime film American Hustle and the painter Margaret Keane in the biopic Big Eyes. Further acclaim came for playing a linguist in the science fiction film Arrival, a self-harming reporter in the miniseries Sharp Objects, and Lynn Chaney in the satirical film Vice.
Adams' stage roles include the Public Theater's revival of Into the Woods in 2012, in which she played the baker's wife. In 2014, she was named one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time and featured in the Forbes Celebrity 100 list. She is married to actor and artist Taran Logallo, with whom she has a daughter.
Amy Lou Adams was born on August 20, 1974, to American parents Richard and Catherine Adams, when her father was stationed with the United States Army at the Caserma Italy military complex in Vicenza, Italy. She is the middle of 7 children, with 4 brothers and 2 sisters. After moving from one Army base to another, Adams's family settled in Castle Rock, Colorado, when she was 8. After leaving the Army, her father sang professionally in nightclubs and restaurants. Adams has described going to her father's shows and drinking Shirley Temples at the bar as among her fondest childhood memories. The family was poor, they camped and hiked together, and performed amateur skits, usually written by her father and sometimes by her mother. Adams was enthusiastic about the place and always played the lead.
Adams was raised as a Mormon until her parents divorced in 1985 and left the church. She did not have strong religious beliefs, but has said that she valued her upbringing for teaching her love and compassion. After the breakup, her father moved to Arizona and remarried, while the children remained with their mother. Her mother became a semi-professional bodybuilder who took the children with her to the gym when she trained. Adams has compared her uninhibited early years with her siblings to Lord of the Flies. Describing herself as a scrappy, tough kid, she has said she fought frequently with other children.
Adams attended Douglas County High School. She was not academically inclined, but was interested in the creative arts and sang in the school choir. She competed in track and gymnastics, harbored ambitions of becoming a ballerina, and trained as an apprentice at the local David Taylor Dance Company. She disliked high school and kept mostly to herself. After graduation, she and her mother moved to Atlanta, Georgia. She did not go to college, which disappointed her parents, and she later regretted not pursuing higher education. At 18, Adams realized she was not gifted enough to be a professional ballerina, and found musical theater more to her taste. One of her first stage roles was in a community theater production of Annie, which she did on a volunteer basis. To support herself, she worked as a greeter at a Gap store. She also worked as a waitress at Hooters, but left the job after she saved enough money to buy a used car.
Adams began her professional career as a dancer in a 1994 dinner theater production of A Chorus Line in Boulder, Colorado. The job required her to wait on tables before getting up on stage to perform. She enjoyed singing and dancing, but disliked waitressing and ran into trouble when a fellow dancer, whom she considered a friend, made false accusations about her to the director. Adams said, "I never really knew what the lies were. I only knew I kept getting called in and lectured about my lack of professionalism." She lost the job but went on to perform in dinner theater at Denver's Heritage Square Music Hall and Country Dinner Playhouse. During a performance of Anything Goes at the Country Dinner Playhouse in 1995, she was spotted by Michael Brindisi, the president and artistic director of the Minneapolis-based Chanhassen Dinner Theater, who offered her a job there. Adams moved to Chanhassen, Minnesota, where she performed in the theater for the next 3 years. She loved the security and schedule of the job, and has said that she learned tremendously from it. Nonetheless, the grueling work took its toll on her. "I had a lot of recurring injuries, bursitis in my knees, pulled muscles in my groin, my adductor and abductor. My body was wearing out."
During her time at Chanhassen, Adams acted in her first film, a black and white short satire named The Chromium Hook. Soon after, while she was off work nursing a pulled muscle, she attended the locally held auditions for the Hollywood film Drop Dead Gorgeous, a satire on beauty pageants starring Kirsten Dunst, Ellen Barkin, and Kirstie Alley. Adams was cast in the supporting part of a promiscuous cheerleader. She felt that her character's personality was far removed from her own and worried about how people would perceive her. The production was filmed locally, which enabled Adams to shoot for her role while also performing Brigadoon on stage. Encouragement from Alley prompted Adams to actively pursue a film career, and she moved to Los Angeles in January 1999. She described her initial experience in the city as dark and bleak, and she pined for her life back in Chanhassen.
In Los Angeles, Adams auditioned for whatever parts came her way, but she was mostly given roles of the big girl. Her first assignment came within a week of her relocation in Fox's television series Manchester Prep, a spin-off of the film Cruel Intentions, in the lead role of Catherine Mertert. Following numerous script revisions and 2 production shutdowns, the series was cancelled. Adams later said that a controversial scene in which her character encourages a girl to masturbate on a horse was the primary reason for its cancellation. The 3 filmed episodes were re-edited and released later in 2000 as the direct-to-video film Cruel Intentions 2. Despite a negative critical reception, Nathan Rabin of the AV Club wrote that Adams plays her alphabet role with vicious glee, largely missing from Sarah Michelle Gellar's sterile take on the character.
Adams next had a supporting role as the teenage nemesis of a movie star in Psycho Beach Party, a horror parody of Beach Party and slasher films. She played the part as a homage to the actress Anne Margaret. From 2000 to 2002, Adams appeared in guest roles in several television series, including That 70s Show, Charmed, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Smallville, and The West Wing.
Following brief roles in 3 small-scale features of 2002, The Slaughter Rule, Pumpkin, and Serving Sarah, Adams found her first high-profile part in Steven Spielberg's comedy drama Catch Me If You Can. She was cast as Brenda Strong, a nurse with whom Frank Abagnale, Jr. falls in love. The film raised her confidence. Despite the film's success and praise for her warm presence from Tag McCarthy, a critic for Variety, it failed to launch her career. She was unemployed for a year after its release, leading her to almost quit film acting. Adams instead enrolled in acting classes, realizing that she had a lot to learn and a lot of self-growth to work through. Her career prospects seemingly improved a year later when she received a lucrative offer to star as a regular in the CBS television drama Dr. Vegas, but she was dropped after a few episodes. On film, she only had a minor role in the Fred Savage star The Last Run.
Disillusioned by her firing from Dr. Vegas, Adams, at age 30, considered quitting acting after finishing her work on the sole project she was signed to. It was the independent comedy drama Junebug, which had a production budget of under $1 million. Directed by Phil Morrison, the film featured Adams as Ashley Johns 10, a perky and talkative pregnant woman. Morrison was impressed by Adams's ability to not question her character's inherently good motives. She found a connection with Johnson's faith in God, and spent time with Morrison in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, attending church. She described making the film as the summer I grew into myself, and after dyeing her hair red for the part, she decided to not go back to her natural blonde color. Junebug premiered at the 2005 Sundance Film Festival, where Adams won a special jury prize. Tim Roby of the Daily Telegraph labeled the film a small, quiet miracle and wrote that Adams had given one of the most delicately funny and heartbreaking performances it's ever been my pleasure to review. Ann Hornaday of the Washington Post opined that her radiant portrayal reflected the film's deeply humanist heart. Adams received her first Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress and won an Independent Spirit Award.
Later in 2005, Adams had supporting parts in two critically panned films, the romantic comedy The Wedding Date, starring Deborah Messing and Dermot Mulroney, and the ensemble coming-of-age film Standing Still. Also that year, she joined the cast of the television series The Office, for a recurring role over 3 episodes. In Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, a sports comedy from Adam McKay, Adams played the romantic interest of Will Ferrell's character, which critic Peter Travers deemed quite a come-down from her role in Junebug. She also had a minor role in the workplace comedy The Ex, starring Zach Braff and Amanda Peet.
After voicing in Walt Disney Pictures' animated comedy film Underdog, Adams starred as a highly optimistic and joyous Disney princess named Giselle in the musical romantic comedy Enchanted. She was among 250 actresses who auditioned for the high-profile part. The studio favored the casting of a bigger star, but the director Kevin Lima insisted on Adams due to her commitment to the part and her ability to not be judgmental about her character's personality. Patrick Dempsey and James Marsden featured as her romantic interests. A ball gown that she had to wear for the film weighed 45 pounds, and Adams fell several times under its weight. She also sang 3 songs for the film's soundtrack: True Love's Kiss, Happy Working Song, and That's How You Know. The critic Roger Ebert commended Adams for being fresh and winning in a role that absolutely depends on effortless lovability, and Wesley Morris of the Boston Globe wrote that she demonstrates a real performer's ingenuity for comic timing and physical eloquence. Todd McCarthy considered the role to be Adams's breakthrough and compared her rise to stardom to that of Julie Andrews. Enchanted was a commercial success, grossing over $340 million worldwide. Adams received a Golden Globe Award nomination for Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical.
Following the success of Enchanted, Adams took on the part of Bonnie Bach, Congressman Charlie Wilson's assistant in Mike Nichols' political comedy drama Charlie Wilson's War, starring Tom Hanks, Julia Roberts, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. Kirk Honeycutt of The Hollywood Reporter praised Adams for being sweetly savvy in her part, but Peter Bradshaw was disappointed to see her talent wasted in a role he considered to be of minimal importance.
The 2008 Sundance Film Festival saw the release of Sunshine Cleaning, a comedy drama about 2 sisters who start a crime scene cleanup business. Adams was attracted to the idea of playing someone who constantly tries to better herself. Mick LaSalle of the San Francisco Chronicle considered Adams to be magical, adding that she gives us a portrait of raging want beneath a veneer of surface diffidence. In the 1939 set screwball comedy Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day, Adams starred as an aspiring American actress in London who encounters a middle-aged governess named Miss Pettigrew. Stephen Holden of the New York Times drew similarities to her role in Enchanted and wrote that the screen magic she displays in such endearing roles hasn't been this intense since the heyday of Gina Arthur.
Adams next starred in Doubt, an adaptation of John Patrick Shanley's play of the same name. The production tells the story of a Catholic school principal who accuses a priest of pedophilia. Adams features as an innocent nun embroiled in the conflict. Shanley initially approached Natalie Portman for the part, but offered Adams the role after finding her innocent, yet intelligent, persona similar to that of Ingrid Bergman. Adams identified with her character's ability to find the best in people. She described her collaboration with Streep and Hoffman as a masterclass in acting. Writing for the Houston Chronicle, Amy Biancali commented that Adams sparks with distressed compassion, and Ann Hornaday opined that she exudes just the right wide-eyed innocence. Adams was nominated for an Academy Award, Golden Globe Award, and BAFTA Award for Best Supporting Actress.
As with Junebug and Enchanted, Adams's roles in her 2008 releases were those of the ingenue, innocent women with a cheerful personality. When asked about her being typecast in such roles, Adams said that she responds to characters who are joyful and identified with their sense of hope. She believed that despite certain similarities in their disposition, these characters were vastly different from one another. She said, "Naivete is not stupidity, and innocent people are often very complex."
The 2009 fantasy adventure film Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, starring Ben Stiller, featured Adams as the aviator Amelia Earhart. It was the first motion picture to film inside the National Air and Space Museum in Washington. The director Sean Levy said that the role allowed Adams to showcase her acting range. Adams believed it to be the first time she was allowed to play a confident character on screen. Despite mixed reviews, Adams's work was praised. Terming her a sparkling screen presence, Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune thought that the film radically improves whenever Amy Adams pops up. That same year, Adams starred in the comedy drama Julie and Julia as disgruntled government secretary Julie Powell, who decides to blog about the recipes in Julia Child's cookbook Mastering the Art of French Cooking. In a parallel storyline, Meryl Streep portrays Child. Adams enrolled at the Institute of Culinary Education to prepare for the part. Carrie Ritchie of the Philadelphia Inquirer thought that the film was as delicious as French cuisine and found Adams to be and her most winsome. Both Night at the Museum and Julie and Julia were commercial successes, with the former earning over $400 million.
Adams began the new decade with a leading role opposite Matthew Goode in the romantic comedy Leap Year, which the critic Richard Roper believed was saved from truly awful status by Adams's presence. Her next release of the year, the boxing drama The Fighter, was much better received. Directed by David O. Russell, the film tells the story of boxer half-brothers Mickey Ward and Dickie Eklund. Melissa Leo played their mother and Adams portrayed Ward's aggressive girlfriend, a barmaid named Charlene Fleming. Describing Adams's part as a tough, sexy bitch, Russell cast her against type to rid her of her girl-next-door image. The role marked a significant departure for her, and she was challenged by Russell's insistence on finding her character's strength in silence. She enrolled in an exotic dance class by the trainer Sheila Kelly to find her character's eroticism. Joe Morgenstern of the Wall Street Journal wrote that she is as tough, tender, smart, and funny as she was ethereal and delightful and enchanted. What an actress, and what range! She received Academy, Golden Globe, and BAFTA nominations for Best Supporting Actress. She lost the former two to Leo. She expressed a desire to play more dramatic roles in the future.
The Disney musical The Muppets, starring the eponymous puppets, featured Adams and Jason Segel in live-action roles. Entertainment Weekly's Lisa Schwartzbaum remarked that the role marked her return to her comedian sweetheart persona. She also recorded 7 songs for the film's soundtrack. The following year, Adams played the baker's wife in the Public Theater's revival of Stephen Sondheim's musical Into the Woods, as part of the Shakespeare in the Park Festival at the open-air Delacorte Theater. It was her New York stage debut and her first theater appearance in 13 years. She agreed to the month-long production to take on a challenge that seemed insurmountable, though she was overwhelmed and intimidated by it. She'd prepared with a private singing coach, but her film schedule enabled her to spend only 4 weeks in rehearsal. Ben Brantley, the New York Times theater critic, praised Adams as lucidly spoken in some performance but criticized her for lacking the nervy, dissatisfied restlessness of her part.
Adams took another fierce woman part in Paul Thomas Anderson's psychological drama The Master. She played Peggy Dodd, the ruthless and manipulative wife of the leader of a cult. It marked her third and final collaboration with Hoffman, whom she deeply admired, before his death 2 years later. The organization depicted in the film was deemed by journalists to be based on Scientology. Adams considered the comparison to be misleading, but was glad for the attention it brought to the film. Although not a method actor, Adams believed that the intense role had left her on edge in her personal life. Comparing her character to Lady Macbeth, the critic Justin Chong wrote that Adams's pertness has rarely seemed so malevolent, and Donald Clark of the Irish Times commended her for playing the part with discreet menace. John Patterson of The Guardian noted that a scene in which she chastises Hoffman's character while furiously masturbating him was one of the most significant sequences in the film. Once again, Addams received Academy, Golden Globe, and BAFTA nominations for her supporting part.
Clint Eastwood's sports drama Trouble with the Curve, in which she played the estranged daughter of a baseball scout, was Addams' second film release of 2012. She admired Eastwood's warm and generous personality and was pleased with the collaboration. She prepared for the part by learning to catch, pitch, and swing from a baseball coach. The film received mixed reviews, and Roger Ebert took note of how Addams had made a standard role seem valuable. She also played the brief part of a drug addict in On the Road, an ensemble drama based on Jack Kerouac's novel of the same name.
After losing out on the role of Lois Lane in 2 previous films about Superman, Addams secured the part in Zack Snyder's 2013 reboot, Man of Steel, starring Henry Cavill as the titular superhero. She played Lane with a mixture of toughness and vulnerability, but Peter Bradshaw thought that the character was sketchily conceived and criticized her lack of chemistry with Cavill. The film earned over $660 million to become one of her biggest box office hits. Addams next featured in Her, a drama from the writer-director Spike Jonze about a lonely man who falls in love with an operating system. Addams played his close friend. She had unsuccessfully auditioned for Jonze's 2009 film Where the Wild Things Are and was hired for Her after Jonze looked back at those tapes. Addams was drawn to the idea of portraying a platonic male-female friendship, which she believed was rare in film.
Further success came to Addams when she re-teamed with David O. Russell in the crime film American Hustle, co-starring Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper, and Jennifer Lawrence. Inspired by the 1970s abs cam scandal, the film featured Addams as a seductive con artist, though she played it so that everything felt justified and it didn't feel like she was just a sexy sociopath. She collaborated closely with Hale to build their characters and made off-screen suggestions to Russell, including for a scene in which she is aggressively kissed on the lips by her lover's wife. The work was grueling for Addams, who later confirmed reports that Russell had been hard on her and had made her cry frequently. She said that she feared bringing such a negative experience home to her daughter. American Hustle was acclaimed by critics. Manohla Dargis of the New York Times believed that Addams goes deeper here than she's ever been allowed to and wrote that she had successfully turned an unpredictable character into a thrillingly wild one. She won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical and received her 5th Oscar nomination. Her and American Hustle were deemed by critics to be among the best films of 2013, and they were both nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture.
Following an appearance in the poorly received drama Lullaby, Addams starred in Big Eyes, a biopic of the troubled artist Margaret Keane, whose paintings of big-eyed waifs were plagiarized by her husband, Walter Keane. When she was first offered the part, she passed on it to avoid playing another naive woman. The birth of her daughter in 2010 prompted Addams to find strength in the passive character, and she drew upon experiences in her life where she had not stood up for herself. In preparation, she practiced painting and studied the way Keane worked. Keane liked Addams's portrayal of her, and Mark Kermode of The Guardian termed her performance a potent blend of intuitive fire and sensitive vulnerability. She won a 2nd consecutive Golden Globe Award for Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical and received a BAFTA nomination for Best Actress.
After a 1-year absence from the screen, Addams had 3 film releases in 2016. She first reprised the role of Lois Lane in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, which marked the 2nd installment in the DC Extended Universe after Man of Steel. Despite a negative critical reception for favoring visual effects over a coherent narrative, the film earned over $870 million to rank as her highest-grossing release. In her next 2 releases, the science fiction film Arrival and the psychological thriller Nocturnal Animals, Addams played emotionally guarded, fiercely intelligent women to critical acclaim. Based on Austin Wright's novel Tony and Susan, Tom Ford's Nocturnal Animals tells the story of an unhappily married art dealer named Susan, who was traumatized when reading a violent novel written by her ex-husband. Addams found little resemblance between herself and her poised and aloof character, and modeled Susan's personality on that of Ford. Stephanie Zacharek of Time magazine considered the film to be visually arresting, yet thematically weak, but commended Adams and Gyllenhaal's performances for making their characters' pain seem genuine.
Arrival, directed by Denis Villeneuve and based on Ted Chiang's short story Story of Your Life, ranks among the most acclaimed films of Adams's career. The film is about Louise Banks, a linguist, who experiences strange visions when she is hired by the American government to interpret the language of extraterrestrials. She was drawn to the idea of playing an intellectual female lead and connected with the film's theme of unity and compassion. She watched documentaries on linguistics to prepare for the part. Writing for The Atlantic, Christopher Orr deemed Adams's performance to be mesmerizingly open, by turns uplifting and sorrowful, and Kenneth Turan of the Los Angeles Times believed that the film was a showcase for her ability to quietly and effectively meld intelligence, empathy, and reserve. Arrival was a commercial success, earning over $200 million against a $47 million budget. Adams received BAFTA and Golden Globe nominations in the Best Actress category. Several journalists expressed disappointment over her failure to receive an Oscar nomination for it. Adams played Lois Lane for the third time in Justice League, an ensemble film about the titular superheroes. The critic Tim Gritterson of Screen International commented that despite providing emotional resonance to the film, Adams's talents were wasted in a thankless supporting role. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.